This is Kyle McCord, and you're listening to Austin, Felix, and Matt on the Devy Debate.
Welcome to the Devy Debate. All right, boys. Are we ready to debate? Austin, you tweeted something, or you tweeted your running back ranking. Explain yourself.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast. You jumped up and...
That's Austin Nace.
Who is going to be that guy? And for me, Bijan Robinson is still going to be that guy.
Back to the ground with Robinson, who spins and then tries to bounce it. A stiff arm, another one as he rides it, keeps his balance. They're going to say he stepped out, but
I'm Felix Sharp. I know you didn't think that we would get through this episode without mentioning the name one Zach F. Wilson.
Screener draw. Oh, Wilson is going to uncork for the end zone, and he drops it in beautifully. And it is his roommate Dax Milne on the touchdown.
That's Matt Bruning.
G. Scott Jr. Obviously, I waxed poetic about him on the last episode, so I won't do that again here.
And this time it's Fields on the carry. Watch out! Justin Fields hails Columbus 51 yards.
Bruning, are you ready to go head-to-head with me?
I am.
Got to get my popcorn out here. Hold on.
Got to continue. I got it. Kyle McCord is going to end up winning the job. He's going to be rated higher.
Well, I'm not nearly as passionate about what I'm about to talk about.
Our apologies to Herbstreit. We ran out of time. We'll get them rescheduled soon. And for Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. It's 9:30 Eastern time, the only time zone with trees. That means it's time for the Devy Debate, brought to you by CampusToCanton.com. That's Matt Bruning. That's Austin Nace, back from France. And I'm Felix Sharp. On a vaccinated version of tonight's show, is Ohio State vulnerable? Will Jim Harbaugh be employed in January? And is Raheem Jarrett overrated? But we start with reports out of Bengals training camp regarding Marr Chase. The reports are that Chase is struggling with his route running in creating separation. Austin, should this be cause for concern?
I mean, I don't even know why we were drafting Marr Chase in the first place. I mean, there's no concern. There's no concern at all. It's a couple days into camp. They don't need him to be great this year. Like, A, that team is going to stink. And B, they have Higgins and Boyd there to kind of bring him along slowly. Obviously, you don't want to bring your receiver that you took top 5 overall along slowly. But I think there were questions. I mean, he hasn't played in a full year. There were some technical things that I think he needed to work on that he could have worked on a little bit that junior year, but obviously opted out. So, no, I'm not worried about it at all. That team, this is a throwaway year for the Bengals. So whatever happens, happens.
Tell me if I'm saying something wrong in that Marr Chase is not a player who thrives on separation. He thrives on physicality. It's something that we talked about months ago when we were doing our reviews of Marr Chase. That's just not necessarily his game per se. Bruning, am I saying something wrong about that analysis of the type of player that Marr Chase is?
No, I just think the year off has kind of disillusioned everybody to what Marr Chase is and was. You go back and look at the high-flying offense that he was with Joe Burrow and Justin Jefferson, Joe Brady there in that national championship year. You know, we've talked a lot about it. One of the, I think arguably, if maybe not even arguably, the best college offense we've ever seen, at least in my lifetime. And we maybe get disillusioned into how good Chase was that year and not really look. A lot of people don't look at what happens at the line of scrimmage, right? You talk about it. There's other people talk about it. Ray, go out there and they talk about when he comes off the line that he's like a bully, right? He attacks those cornerbacks even when he doesn't have to at times. And I think now people are seeing that and hearing about it at Bengals camp, and they're starting to freak out and wonder, well, maybe he's not this guy that we all were billed to because we didn't see him at all last year. So we all just fall back on what we saw a year and a half ago. that makes sense.
I didn't even have a player comparison for him. I compared him to the Black Panther. He uses contact offensively the same way the Black Panther in fight. His suit would get contact, and he would turn that into a power stream and just explode. That's what Jamar Chase is. He uses contact offensively. So I'm actually not surprised that the reports are that he's not getting separation, because that's not really the type of receiver that he was. So, but we'll see. Jamar Chase is most likely going to be fine.
And stylistically, he seems like the kind of guy, because of that just doesn't shine in practice. Like, you guys have both played organized sports at decent to high levels. There's always like those one or two guys on the team that just, for whatever reason, like they don't practice that well, and then you put them out on a game field and they're fine. I think Chase, just stylistically, that's the kind of guy he's going to be. He's not Mr. Flashy, but he'll go out there and he'll be fine. We're going to get to the first preseason game, and like 3 plays in, he's going to have take a slant to the house or something, and we're going to be like, okay, that was stupid. Why were we worrying?
And that's because in practice, nothing is like 100% full go. And for a player like Chase, who's going to use physicality and run cornerbacks over his stiff arm and be physical, I think that he is going to thrive in games under live conditions. All right. Training camps are in full swing, but there's not a lot of news going on. I posted a Twitter poll that was very interesting earlier this week regarding who would you rather have, and I'd like to get Bruning and Austin your take on this question. We got 3 highly touted running backs, one who's already in the NFL, and Javonte Williams. But who would you rather have? Williams, who's with Denver, Jahmyr Gibbs with Georgia Tech, or the 2022 either first or second running back in that class, depending on who you ask, Isaiah Spiller. Bruning, who would you rather have?
For C2C leagues?
He's speechless. He's speechless.
Well, I have 2 different answers.
That's Devy.
So Devy, I am going to go Spiller, because I've long said on these shows that I want my RBs into the NFL as soon as possible. While I do like Javonte, obviously I've talked all year about him last year, as Austin loves to throw in my face behind the scenes. I comped him to Nick Chubb on a couple of episodes last year. I think Spiller is the better player, though, overall, over Javonte. That C2C, I want Gibbs. I think he's going to be the best of the 3. But if we're going Devy, I'm going to take Spiller because I get him next year, and I think he's going to get high-end draft capital. I think he's going to be better in the NFL than what Javonte is.
Yeah. So we talked, Felix and I, a couple months ago. We sat down with Matthew Friedman, who at the time was at the Action Network. Now he's with FTN, I believe. He had just come out with his first set of Devy rankings. He had never done Devy before. He's never even played it. He decided to do a set of Devy rankings. And we were kind of talking about it with him because, he's a big gambling guy. Like, we were talking about, what's the edge in Devy? And we had a long discussion with the edge in Devy is that people are still too scared to take players a couple years out, even though they're obviously the better talent. Like, they'll take the known, even if it's 70% of the, or even less than that, of the unknown, because they feel like that's safer and they feel like the time is here and they get the benefit now. And I think he's right. I think that traditional thought process, and I know we play a lot of C2C, so that, factors into what goes on in my head as I sit and think about these things. You should always take the best player, no matter what. I don't know how anybody could sit down and watch Jahmyr Gibbs and Javonte Williams and just say objectively that Javonte Williams is a better player. He's not. I don't think he's anywhere close. Gibbs.
That's
Gibbs
not the
is
question,
the
though. The
guy.
question is whether or not Gibbs is a better player than Isaiah Spiller.
Yes, he is.
I agree with you.
Gibbs.
I agree too. Yeah.
Is the safest player, in my opinion. Like, even outside, I think he's even safer than Bijan. Bijan just has like a way higher ceiling. I think at worst, Jahmyr Gibbs is like Aaron Jones. And it just depends what offense you drop him into. But his ceiling is Alvin Kamara, whatever offense you want to drop him into. Like, I just think his floor, and I know people hate to talk about that, is so high compared to some of these. Javonte Williams' floor is he's out the league in 3 years. Javonte Williams' floor is he's Royce Freeman. Like, and I'm not just saying that because they both played for the Broncos. That's just the first name that kind of came to mind. Like, I don't know, and I would rather have him than Spiller. I just think he's got a little bit of a more well-rounded skill set.
Shout out to my co-hosts on the Dynasty Nerds Film Room, Nick Whalen and Jared Wackley. You should check out that channel on YouTube. But we did an extensive film review on Isaiah Spiller, and I have some concerns after watching him, extensively for the better part of 2 days.
Wait. You don't say. You don't say. After all the crap you guys gave me about having Breece Hall above him, and that there is no way in the world that Breece Hall can't be better than Isaiah Spiller, and then you actually sit down, do your homework like somebody else has, and all of a sudden he's not as good. Interesting. Oh, fantastic.
Well, in fairness, I already had Isaiah Spiller ranked below Jahmyr Gibbs, but Jahmyr Gibbs is 200 pounds. Isaiah Spiller is 215, 225 pounds, depending on which year you look at his weight. But you consistently see Jahmyr Gibbs bouncing off of tacklers, including a second-round draft pick in this year's NFL draft in Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and you do not see that consistently with Isaiah Spiller. You do not see him breaking tackles at the second level. You often see him go down from when he gets contact from defensive linemen who are engaged with offensive linemen. They get that one paw around him, and you see Spiller go down just way too often. I don't know that I wouldn't take Javonte Williams over Spiller. And so if I had to rank these three, it's Jahmyr Gibbs clearly number one because of his upside as a pass catcher, but he's an equally, he hasn't even scratched the surface as far as his potential as a runner, and he's a very good runner. And I would take Javonte Williams just because of his tackle breaking ability, and Isaiah Spiller would be a distant third for me.
And just to toss this out there, because Moxley asked in the chat here, he mockingly said Aaron Jones, who has 2 top 5 finishes, is Gibbs' floor. And I don't mean as a fantasy player. I just mean like as an NFL player. Like if Aaron Jones was on, I don't know, I'm trying to think of another offense. If he was on Houston, like Aaron Jones would not be Aaron. It would, we wouldn't think of him the same way as a fantasy asset as we think of him. But I think like that's Gibbs' floor. It would be like Aaron Jones' skill set.
You can say it. His floor is Aaron Jones, and his ceiling is better than CMC. There's nothing wrong with that. Just say it, Austin. We want spicy Austin to come out every once in a while. Just go with it. It's okay.
I don't think I could say his ceiling is higher than CMC.
Oh, it's count.
Just CMC did a lot of return work in college, and I think that's where you really saw CMC. I guess I don't think Gibbs is quite that dynamic with the ball in his hands. Great player. Great player.
I don't. We can stick here for a minute because Jahmyr Gibbs, his first touch was a kick return that he almost took back to the house. He actually had a kick return taken back for a touchdown against Boston College that was called back. He's not returning punts, but he's no slouch in the kick return game. So let's give, and he's great in the vertical passing game, as we have talked about extensively on this show, and that we will continue to talk about as we continue to cover Jahmyr Gibbs moving forward. The bulk of today's show, we are covering the Big Ten East. Lots of sexy storylines in the Big Ten East. Austin, why don't you start with Maryland and what Mike Locksley is doing with the Terrapins?
This sexy is not the word I would have chosen, but thank you, Felix, for leading in with that. Maryland, yes. So they're one of those teams in college this year that has a huge range of outcomes, in my opinion. They're very much kind of a mystery team to me. Like, we know what the pieces are. We're just not sure exactly how well they're all going to play together, because they were inconsistent last year. Now, they bring back their quarterback, which is good. They bring back Talia Tagovailoa to his brother. I feel that's just like his middle name or something, like Talia to his brother Tagovailoa. That's just what he's going to be known as for forever. I feel kind of bad. But he's a junior there. He was their quarterback last year, very inconsistent. He had 2 games where he completed 70+% of his passes, 3 touchdowns, tore Penn State to shreds, tore Minnesota to shreds. And then he had he bookended that with a game against Northwestern and a game against Indiana, where he completed 50%-ish of his passes, 6 interceptions between those 2 games. He needs to be more consistent. That offense can only go as far as he goes. But that's not to say they don't have other weapons. That's just, the nature of college football. Receiver wise, they have probably the second best receiving room in the Big Ten. I feel pretty comfortable saying, after Ohio State. They have
how many of those guys are NFL guys, Austin?
I think all
Maryland wide
of them.
receiver.
I think all three. They have, obviously, everybody knows Raheem Jarrett, the 5-star kid that stayed home and spurned LSU on signing day last year. He was going to be in his second year on campus, and he had that big game last season against was it the Penn State game? I think was his big one where
it was the Penn State game where he scored on the same
two
play.
slants. Yeah, two slants basically just took him to the house.
Well, it was two pick plays where they were working with a combo with the outside receiver. He was playing inside, and it was not really a pick play, but it was a pick play where the cornerback couldn't catch up with Jarrett.
There we go. Okay. So yeah, I think everybody knows him, but the other two guys, Dante Demas, who's a senior, a bigger guy, 6'3", 217. He's definitely in that bully category. He was their leading receiver last year, 24 for 365 and 4. I think he's a day 3 NFL draft pick, and I think he's not in a Devy league, I wouldn't have him, but in a C2C league, I think he should be on a roster somewhere. And I feel the same about Deshaun Jones, who's 6'1", 185. He's a junior there. And last year he had 11 for 181 and 1. He's had some health issues over the years, but if those three can all stay healthy together this year, I think that offense will be pretty strong. I don't know who's going to be their running back. It's probably going to be one of Penny Boone. Felix, do you want to say it? Isn't he
Detroit stand up?
There you go. Thank you. I knew I had to talk about Penny Boone. Penny Boone's like 250. He's too big, but he's a big guy. And then they also have Isaiah Jacobs, who is Josh Jacobs' brother or cousin, I forget, but he's related there. That's going to be the battle for that running back spot. No incoming transfers, no impact freshmen on offense. At least they had a solid class, but a lot of it's linemen and linebackers and stuff. So the bottom line, if you told me they won 9 games this year, that wouldn't shock me. If you said Maryland won 5 games, that wouldn't shock me either. They're building something there. It's just the pieces. I'm not sure how that's all going to come together. So that's all I got to say about Maryland. Not sexy. Oh, yeah. And Marcus Fleming. I guess I should probably talk about him as well. Did you not want me to? Oh, yeah. Felix wants me to get correct. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I see what's going on here. Yeah, they have Marcus Fleming, too, transferred from Nebraska. But I don't think he's going to touch the field this year, really, unless someone gets hurt.
I'm going to end up just texting Chris the corrections that need to be made. That takes us to Indiana, and one of my favorite teams in the country, really. What Tom Allen is doing at Indiana is really remarkable considering the recruiting classes there. Michael Penix Jr. is one of the best quarterbacks in the country, in my opinion. He's also one of the most inconsistent. I think that he has a first-round ceiling if he could just become more fundamentally sound with his base, but they also bring back offensive weapons in Peyton Hendershot, a very good tight end, Ty Freifogel, who is a contested catch fifth-year wide receiver who averaged 19 yards a catch last year and absolutely torched Ohio State and almost a comeback win against Ohio State there. But they had a magical season last year, starting with the upset win against Penn State that everyone will remember that I called, even though they hadn't beaten Penn State since the 90s. Incoming transfers. They've got two really interesting transfers, one in Stephen Carr of USC, who's going to be in the backfield there, and then DJ Matthews figures to man the slot position that was vacated by Whop Phillier going to the NFL. DJ Matthews, coming in from Florida State, had 84 receptions in his career there, and so he should be somewhat of a safety blanket for Michael Penix Jr. the same way Phillier was. Impact freshmen, they've got 2 4-star players coming in, and Donovan McCulley, who, if you're not listening to Colin Decker on the Campus Life podcast, great podcast there, and Colin and his co-host do an excellent job at covering players really, really early, and Donovan McCulley has been someone that those guys have been touting. He is a Johnny Manziel type improviser in the backfield who the coaches have called special, and he is going to be really fun to watch next season if Michael Penix Jr. makes the jump. just someone that should be rostered in campus to Canton leagues. If he's not, I would get him on watch lists and potentially pick him up during waiver periods, but it's someone who should absolutely be rostered. And then there's Jaquez Smith out of Atlanta, Georgia, another 4-star receiver that 24/7 has comped to G. Scott Jr. Now, that's a lofty comparison because I think G. Scott Jr. was a very good route runner coming out of high school before he was converted into tight end. I don't know that I see the suddenness in Smith that I saw in G. Scott Jr., but still, I mean, 24/7, they know what they're doing. That's a 4-star prospect, and USC isn't getting a whole lot of 4-star players at the skill position player, but that's a testament to Tom Allen in the job that they're doing. This is a team that could be a dark horse in the Big Ten. Ohio State is going to be vulnerable per se because they've got a lot of new starters, a new quarterback, even though I think Ohio State's defense is going to be very good. But Indiana almost pulled off the upset last year, and this year that game is in Bloomington. That game is in Bloomington. It's going to be rocking, and we could see Indiana pull off, and Michael Penix Jr. pull off that upset. I know that I'm pulling for it, but you don't always have fantasy relevant players playing for the Hoosiers. This year you do. You got Penix Jr., you got Hendershot, you got Freifogel. You got to have Donovan McCulley rostered. And Stephen Carr could surprise coming out of USC. So that is Indiana. Matt, why don't you take us to Penn State?
All right, so Penn State, I have them here as the second best team in the East. I think last year was obviously a down year for them. I think some of that was just COVID, and after that horrible loss to Indiana that they should not have lost because Michael Penix did not score. I think that just kind of deflated their season and everything kind of derailed for them there. But Penn State has a very interesting schedule this year as well. Opening night against Wisconsin, who has a chance to be the best team in the West. And 2 weeks later, they get Auburn in what's likely, I think, going to be the whiteout game for them this year. So that's going to be a really interesting game very early on in the schedule. And then I broke it down to 2 weeks, tough test against Indiana 2 weeks later, and then brutal schedule the last 3 weeks of the season, Ohio State, Maryland, and Michigan. With all that being said, I expect them to go like 11-1, 10-2. So just to give you guys an idea of what I think about this team, and Colin, I know you'll listen to this Thursday. I'm happy for you, buddy. That I think you are going to have a good team this year. So impact returners, you got quarterback Sean Clifford, who's been there for about 15 years. While he's not much to talk about, I think, for the NFL, I do think he can actually produce in Devy. I think he's going to have above average season, and he's going to be the key to some of these wide receivers having even bigger years. I do think that they both can, but a lot of that is going to rely on Sean Clifford's shoulders, and I do think this offense will be a little bit better. Noah Cain, I think, is going to be the starter. There's a lot of talk about Kevon Lee taking over. Austin and me talked about that at some point in time earlier this season, that we think Cain's going to be the starter. He's back fully healthy as of right now. He got injured in the first game last year, just 3 carries into his season. Redshirt sophomore, has size, power, contact, balance. He's the best back in that room, and I think he's going to get a bulk of the carries. I do think Lee, though, will be a part of the running game. Again, Twitter seems to think he is the guy over Cain. He's definitely bigger, coming in at 6'2", 230, and he's not afraid to lower his shoulder on defenders, but I don't think he's anywhere near like the lateral agility that Noah Cain has. Then you got Felix's guy, Jahan Dotson. He seems to be a guy in the office this year. He broke out last year in that great game against the Buckeyes. Everybody remembers him for the push-off catch against Shaun Wade, where he caught one-handed after he pushed Shaun Wade down. I do believe his upside is limited, though, due to Clifford, but could end up having the best season of his career, going over 1,000 yards. He's a senior wide receiver, top play-making ability, speed. If he continues to flash the strong hands and highlight catches and produces again this year, I do think he's got a shot to be a 3rd or 4th round pick. And then Parker Washington, rising star in the making in this offense. 5'10", 205, broke out last year. He's a sophomore, great route runner, known for his yards after the catch, quick in and out of his routes. I think he'll likely play second fiddle to Dotson this year. The big thing I have with him is, so his ADP right now is 60.29, which I think is a little bit high for him, because I do think he produces this year and probably even more so next year. I know Austin's shaking his head. I'm a little worried about his NFL upside. I think he can be a really good slot wide receiver, but 60.29, that's steep. That's steep. I'll just put it that way. So That's it, though. They don't have really any incoming freshmen that I know about that I really, I guess, care about. Nothing I really saw transfer wise. They had a couple defensive players. Nothing that's going to matter for us. I mean, Will, whatever his name is, transferred to Kentucky. He's going to light the world on fire, according to Twitter. So, but outside of that, nobody transferring into Penn State.
Austin, let's talk about Rutgers as quickly as possible.
I was going to say, do we have to? Do we have to? Can I talk about something else? Parker Washington his ADP is not too high. And Will Levis sucks. Okay. Rutgers. They have two guys that are kind of cool, but also not. They have Bo Melton and Isaiah Pacheco, and that's it. And neither of them should be owned in anything but the world's deepest Devy league. I don't even really want Pacheco in a C2C. I would just rather have upside somewhere else because I don't think his he'll finish as a low end RB4 or something this year. That offense just isn't good. Melton last year averaged 16 points a game in college fantasy. So if you're into those types of things, go get him. They're building for the future. They brought back what's his name? What's their coach's name?
Greg Schiano.
Thank you. Schiano, man. Yes, they brought back Schiano. He's building up this program again like he did a decade or so ago when they had Ray Rice and the McCourties and all those guys there. They have a really nice recruiting class coming in next year. I've already looked at a bunch of those guys, and they have the Austin seal of approval. They're just going to be bad this year. I see 4 possible wins on their roster: Temple, Syracuse, Delaware, Illinois. Everything else, I think, is a loss. I don't care about them. So Michigan, let's go. Let's talk about it.
Austin, just talk briefly about the quarterback that's coming in to Rutgers next year for people who don't know.
Yeah, they have one of the top dual threat guys in the country coming in next year, Gavin Wimsatt. I believe he is from near where you are, Felix, right? He's a Kentucky kid, I think.
No, I didn't. Is he? I didn't know that.
I think he is, yes.
Felix knows one 2022 prospect, and that was Quinn Ewers, and he's not even in the 2022 class anymore.
Got to rewipe the slate clean there, yeah. Wimsatt, Felix says yes. And Chris says yes. And he was supposed to go to Kentucky, and he flipped to Rutgers there. He is, I don't want to say this so definitively, but probably the best rushing quarterback in next year's class. And he shows enough promise as a passer to make me think that he could be really good in college. And they've got a 4-star running back out near the Philly area going there. They've got a bunch of 4-star kids going there across the board. I will say that they're returning all of their offensive line from last year. Stability's good for a crappy team, so good on them. But that's about all I have positive to say about that team.
And that brings us to the maize in blue. Michigan has to modernize their offense, and that is going to be up to Josh Gaddis, the offensive coordinator who came in from Alabama. They've got some returning starters with impact starters with Hassan Haskins and Blake Corum. I think I would call them impact returners. Ronnie Bell and Cornelius Johnson led the team in receiving last year, but they bring in a transfer from Deion Sanders' JSU, and that's Dalen Baldwin. USA Today predicts that he will lead the team in receiving, and quite frankly, I believe them. Baldwin had 27 receptions for 540 yards last year. He's 6'3". He's thick. He's fast. And quite frankly, there's not really a receiver with this type of profile on Michigan's team. Cornelius Johnson has some of the size and speed, but I think Baldwin appears to be more of a complete player. Talking about transfers, they lost more than they gained this season. They lose Xavier Worthy, who's apparently, and I don't even know if I would consider him a transfer, but he was committed to Michigan, never came to campus. He's tearing up camp at Texas. Joe Milton is one of 2 leading candidates to start at quarterback for Tennessee, and Zach Charbonnet is now back in California at UCLA. But they do bring in addition to Baldwin, in addition to Baldwin, they also bring in Alan Bowman for Texas Tech. I mean, I think that if you are a Michigan fan, you want to see J.J. McCarthy, the 5-star freshman quarterback, start here. I don't know that's going to be the case. It's probably going to be Cade McNamara, at least to start. And he's going to have Bell and Johnson and Baldwin to throw to. That backfield is going to be Blake Corum, who's a little bit more of a scat back, Hassan Haskins, who's more of a two-down back. But then Donovan Edwards out of West Bloomfield High School. That's got to be the only reason he chose to go to Michigan, because he's nearby. Donovan Edwards is comped by 24/7 Sports to Alvin Kamara. And if you watch his tape, you see Donovan Edwards, just kind of a slasher in the running back, and then he can line up out wide and play wide receiver too. So the Devy community is very high on Edwards, and I am too. It's just hard to be excited about any skill position players that are going to Michigan. Michigan's single season record for passing yards is 3,331, set by John Navarre back in like 2005, 2006, somewhere in there. Trevor Lawrence had 3,153 in 10 games last year. In 10 games. So this is a team that hasn't had a modern offense forever, since Devin Gardner and Shoelace. What was Shoelace's real name? I can't remember.
Denard Robinson.
Denard Robinson.
It's sad that I know that.
Playing quarterback. This is a team that hasn't had speed and hasn't been able to throw the ball vertically, and we're going to see whether or not they can do that this year. Cade McNamara is probably going to start. Can Jim Harbaugh get through the entire season? I don't know. But as far as C2C and Devy, I mean, I think that you want to have, obviously, McCarthy rostered. You want to have Donovan Edwards rostered. I'm not sure that Ronnie Bell or Cornelius Johnson are their third-year players, and I'm just not sure that they're NFL guys. Blake Corum is someone that people like. He was relatively productive last year, and he has a pass-catching skill set. So those are the guys that I'm probably rostering. And then, quite frankly, Dalen Baldwin. Dalen Baldwin as a sleeper, I would take a look at him pretty late. And that brings us to the Ohio State Buckeyes. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, here's where the episode
All right.
doubles in length.
I know. Let's say
Matt
the
talking about
Ohio State University. We are only 30 minutes into the podcast.
He just stretched his fingers and everything, and just
we're making this an hour. We knocked out the Mountain West in like 36 minutes last week, so I wanted to make sure we extended this episode a little bit longer. Now, I will keep most of this brief, as I feel like we do a lot of Ohio State talking on this podcast, and it's thrown in my face quite often that apparently that's the only players I care about and everything else. So I will keep this short. Impact returners, Chris Olave, 6'1", 188 senior. We know he's a good route runner. He's quick in and out of his breaks. I think he's one of the best ball trackers in this class. Obviously, him being back this year has hurt some of these other guys. I don't think he's going to have quite that Devonta Smith-like season that maybe he thought he was going to get to increase his draft capital. Probably should have gone to the draft last year. You got Garrett Wilson, I think the best wide receiver in this room currently. 6', 193, wide receiver 4 off the board in the C2C drafts, has everything, hands, separation, body control. Only thing he lacks is elite speed. I think he's going to be the top receiver for the Buckeyes this year, regardless of who their quarterback is. I just think he's the best weapon to pass the ball to. Then you got JSN, who I think is going to be the second best. I think he outproduces Olave this year. 6', 196. He does it all. And I think he'll be in the slot. They'll move him around as well into the X and Y. They're going to move him all over the field. I think he's going to end up having a really good year this year. Last but not least, for the wide receivers, Julian Fleming, 6'2", 200 pounds, speed, explosiveness. The biggest thing, obviously, everything we talked about, depth chart. Does he even get a chance to play this year? I do think that from everything I've heard, he's actually been really good in this second part of camp. He's looked better in the summer. He's recovered from that shoulder injury that he suffered before the spring game, and we didn't see him play in. Realistic shot that he does see a lot of second-team reps now with Mecca and Harrison. So if he's able to even break out a little bit, obviously that helps his case some moving into next year. But I do, as we talked about, I think a couple weeks ago, maybe on the Ohio State Quinn Ewers pod or something, we talked a little bit about Fleming. I think this is a big year for him. He's got to come out and do something, or it's not going to be good. Jeremy Ruckert. I will also throw this out here since, apparently I'm just like the biggest fan in the world of Jeremy Ruckert all of a sudden, just because he plays at Ohio State. 6'5", 253. I do think he's got good size good speed for his size, good hands. Obviously has really great highlight catches. but he's not used really at all at Ohio State. So I don't know what that's going to mean for him going into the NFL. He's not much of a blocker. I think he's overall just an offensive tight end. And while the NFL is moving more toward that, I don't know if he gets the draft capital of he's not going to get like a Kyle Pitts. So he's not going first round, probably not even going second round. So I don't like him, but I don't know that he's ever going to be much in the NFL. CJ Stroud, 6'3", 205, decent size, athleticism. The ball just effortlessly flies out of his hand. He's obviously the projected starter right now. He's been getting 60% of the reps right now with everything in camp. If he ends up going out and starting the season, I mean, I don't see him having a bad game. I really don't. He's a very good quarterback. All the joking aside about how much I love Kyle McCord as a player and I'll be honest, as a person, if CJ Stroud gets the job, I don't see him having that game where he loses it. So I don't see him getting replaced outside of injury, even with Quinn coming in, who we'll talk about in a minute. I don't think Stroud loses the job. So then it's just going to mean, what does that mean for Stroud next year? But this year, if he does end up winning the job, he's going to be a top quarterback in C2C Devy leagues, and he's going to return his value wherever you get him. Last returning impact returner. Well, he's probably not impact returner, but he's a returner. G. Scott Jr., 6'3", 225. Felix mentioned earlier, he's very well known for his route running, body control, hands. Fuck both of you guys. I got to talk about him. I think he's going to be the next Jeremy Ruckert, but we probably don't see much of him this year. I do think that he's the tight end 3. What? He's going to be an offensive weapon. That's what he's going to be.
The next day 3 tight end?
Well, that's day 3 tight ends. Day 3 tight ends matter, though. That matters. Okay. And I mean, in this offense, I didn't talk about his draft capital yet. I need to see what he does before I comment on his draft capital. I mean, as he's going to be an offensive weapon for them. But I don't know how much that's going to matter because, again, as I mentioned earlier, tight ends are not used that great in the Ohio State offense, never have been, and I don't think that's going to change. Obviously, I'm still very big on him. Impact freshman, Trevion Henderson, 5'11", 195. He's got it all. The biggest thing for him is, can he be a part of this offense this year? I completely skipped over the running backs, as I just realized. So, Master Teague, 5'11", 225. He's got the power. I think he's going to be the starter. I know Felix is all over Mayan Williams. The meatball, 5'8", 227. Everybody is judging him on his whopping 10 attempts last year where he ran for a whopping 64 yards. Good for Mayan Williams. He's just not that good. I know he looks great on his 10 runs, but everybody kind of overlooks what Master Teague did his freshman season behind J.K. Dobbins. He injured his Achilles last year. I do think that they're allowing him to kind of slowly work his way back in. That's why Mayan Williams is getting the first team run right now. When the season starts, Master Teague's going to be the starter. I think it's going to be a mix-in of him, Mayan Williams, and then when Trevion Henderson takes over, I think is going to be more toward the middle of the season, possibly around November. He ends up getting that job and going with it. Emeka Egbuka, 6'1", 190, speed, hands, ball tracking, burst at the line. I think he's going to be on that second team. Will they play him at X? Will they move him into the slot? I don't know. That a lot of that's going to depend on Marvin Harrison Jr., who is 6'3", 190, great route running and hands. He's the guy that obviously everybody's been talking about since spring, has really just kind of come on the scene and looked really good for the Buckeyes. Kyle McCord, 6'3", overall, the best quarterback on the roster currently because Quinn Ewers is not there. He has above average arm strength, can throw off platform, different arm slots. The biggest thing, obviously, is if he doesn't win the job, when will he be there? I don't know. That's going to be the big question. If he wins the job, I think he stays. But outside of that, I don't know where he's going to go. But wherever he goes, I think he'll be the starter. And then last but not least, Quinn Ewers. Have to mention him because he's likely going to be there within the next week or so. 6'3", 206. Not really much else to say on him. I mean, he can do it all. He's got a beautiful set of hair. He's going to be the future of Ohio State. So,
all right.
Thank you.
Kyle McCord did drive me to work one time, Austin. So thank you for doing that. I didn't want to put that out there.
Your Emeka Egbuka thing was, you were like, he's got good hands, he's big, he's fast. You're just like naming everything positive.
I mean, that's the thing. What's negative to say about him? He's going to be on the second team, but I mean, he's still going to get. I mean, I don't know. I didn't want to go too in depth on all these guys. We talk about him a lot. I feel like I was trying to minimize it. I only took 9 minutes. 9 minutes.
Obviously, nobody else can see behind the scenes. We have a chat here. We are just roasting the shit out of Matt as he's going through all of this.
Just put my business out in these streets. I see how it is.
I'm texting Felix. I'm texting Chris. I'm messaging in this chat. Okay, so Matt, I do have a question for you. And this is like you talked about Jeremy Ruckert and kind of the range that you feel that he can go in.
Yes.
What do you think he, as a prospect, better or worse than like Hunter Long, who was a third round guy this year and went to the Dolphins?
So that obviously for me depends on what kind of NFL team is drafting him. I think he's a better offensive weapon than Hunter Long, but overall tight end, no, Hunter Long is a better blocker. That's why I saw the thing we talked obviously in our private chat, the tweet that was posted out there, and someone actually commented on that thread that he's a great blocker. He's not, and I've never said that he was. He is very good in the offensive side of the game. So if a team is looking for that, then yes, I think he can be better than Hunter Long, but he's not that great of a blocker. So it all, in all honesty, depends on what team drafts him. I think he can go third round. I don't think the tight end class is great next year. Is Weidermeyer? That's it? Really?
I like Turner. I like Otten. But they're not better. They're not better than third round guys. I don't think.
Turner is even smaller than Rucker. Or no, he's bigger than Rucker. He's what, 6'6", right?
6'6".
He's 6'6", 240.
240.
Yeah. The saving grace for Jeremy Ruckert could be if he goes to the NFL Combine and absolutely lights it up. He's already lit up a combine previously coming in the class of 2018. He had the highest spark rating at 114.27 in the tight end class, had one of the lowest 40. Actually, he had the best 40 time at 4.76 at tight end. So you're talking about a guy who wasn't productive but could light up the combine. The comp for him could be Mike Gesicki if he is in fact that athletic. That could be the thing for him. Austin, let's close it out with the Michigan State Spartans.
Oh, man, I feel the same way about them as I felt about Rutgers. I guess there's a little more interesting things here to talk about. So Michigan State last year kind of split their quarterbacking between two different guys, Rocky Lombardi and Peyton Thorne. Lombardi was bad, and he transferred to, I believe, Northern Illinois. Peyton Thorne is also bad, but he stayed around, so he has a chance at starting this year. He'll compete for that job with Anthony Russo, who's coming over from Temple. I also don't think Anthony Russo is very good, but hey, someone's got to start, so whatever. I'd be lying if I said I've watched either of those guys in depth, but I've watched their games in the past, and I underwhelming is probably an underwhelming word to describe the two of them. They're just not very good. They do have a little bit of talent there at receiver. They have Jaden Reed, who had a big year, his true freshman year at one of the directional Michigan schools.
Western Michigan University, okay. Kalamazoo stand-up.
That's what I thought. I don't want to get anything Michigan wrong because Felix will drive to Pittsburgh and be outside my door in the morning. So nobody wants that. He's there. That passing offense just is not prolific enough to support a bunch of these guys. Last year they played 7 games. He was their leading receiver, 33 for 407 and 3. It's just not a very good passing offense. They do have, so Ricky White had 10, 223 and 1 last year. And I think all of that or close to all of that was that one game. And I know in a bunch of C2C leagues, I've been burned in the past where I don't react quick enough to stuff like that. So as soon as I saw that, I spent a ton of fob on him that week, and then now he's sucked and I'm considering dropping him. So that was a lesson there for me. But he's there and he's a pretty talented kid, and I could see him doing a few things. They have a couple running backs there that are okay. They had Elijah Collins, who people were fairly high on last year. But he last year he really disappointed. I think he was a little banged up, but he ran it 41 times for 90 yards. So 2 yards a carry, no touchdowns. They do bring in Kenneth Walker III, who was one of the running backs at Wake Forest last year. And he's had a pretty good year. He averaged 5 yards a carry, 13 touchdowns. He can catch the ball a little bit. I think that he probably is the starter there this year, but I'm not that familiar with that coaching staff to know exactly how they like to split touches at the position. So I wouldn't feel comfortable, projecting anybody for a large workload there. The bottom line is I just don't know Michigan State is very much, like I talked about with Maryland, a mystery team, but I don't like the pieces as much. I think they'll probably be more consistent. Like, I don't think their highs will be as high as Maryland's, and I'm not sure their lows will be as low either, but like their median is not very strong.
I want to highlight
just a bunch of people that are there to get beat up by Ohio State.
I want to highlight. I want to highlight Jaden Reed here because of the awesome freshman year that he had at Western Michigan University. But he is a player that is very difficult to get a hold of. He always makes the first man miss, and that is a skill that could be translatable to the NFL. And if he's on a better offense, you could see him be very productive. But he is a player that absolutely, is a yards after catch wide receiver. He's someone who's undervalued because of the offense that he plays there in East Lansing. But I think that Jaden Reed is a really good player. And if you look at Jarek's magic line, I mean, he's above the line on for his first year, below the line for his third year, but he could turn that around and have a good fourth year here. The critical questions in this division. Let's start with this. Does Jim Harbaugh make it through the 2021 season? Either one of you can take that.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, he would have to lose like his first 4 games, in my opinion. I think there's a 0 chance he's gone.
Well, if he has 2 losses and then loses to Ohio State, I think there's a chance that he doesn't coach the bowl game. That he doesn't coach the bowl game. He doesn't coach the bowl game and doesn't make it through the season. Go ahead.
Ohio State is so good that almost gives him an excuse for losing to them.
Exactly. Which is why I can't be a homer, by the way. They're a good team. It's not like I'm pumping up Michigan State over here.
Like, if Ohio State was consistently going 10-3 and Michigan was still losing to them every year, then I think you have more of a complaint than when they're just destroying the entire division, the entire conference every single year, and then either make to the championship or win the whole thing. Like, I think it's very hard to be upset about losing those games, even though I know it's a rival, because they're just so good. I don't know.
I'm going to say no. I don't think that he makes it to the bowl game. I think that he will be fired before then, and they'll have an interim head coach coach the bowl game. And then we got to see if it's Matt Campbell, if it's Joe Brady, if it's Luke Fickell. I think that those are all names to pay attention to.
Fickell's never going to Michigan. Fickell's never going to Michigan.
Who would be your dream realistic hire?
Joe Brady. Joe Brady.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, I've said this it's Joe Brady.
He said that when we had Alan True on.
I did, and Alan said that was a good choice. And he picked some dude from Tampa Bay, some assistant from Tampa Bay that no one's ever heard of who has a Michigan connection. But all right, who starts a game first, Kyle McCord or JJ McCarthy, Matt Bruning?
I'm sticking with it, Kyle McCord. I can't back down now. I'm too far over that line. I can't go backwards now. Kyle McCord, he starts week 1.
Very confident, Austin.
Thank you.
In that choice. Are you as confident as Bruning?
I love when people box themselves into a corner like that with a particular take so much. We actually had somebody on the C2C
I'm gonna
pod
come out
recently,
swinging.
and we've had a lot of guests on, so I can tell this story without naming any names. But someone came on the show and behind the scenes was saying they have a guy that they are so it's like their name is synonymous with them, and they don't even like them that much, but they feel like now they're stuck with that name because they hyped them a lot early. So kudos to you, Matt, for sticking with your guns.
Look,
there with Kyle McCord.
I'll tell you the same thing I told Felix recently. When it happens, the treasure trove of videos and audio I have saved, it's going to be magical. It's going to be a whole episode just dedicated to that right there.
Well, we'll have to get Derek McCord on if and when that happens.
To answer, though, Kyle is the significantly better player. JJ McCarthy is not going to amount to anything. That one weird dude that always messages me about JJ McCarthy is going to hit me up after this show, but it's fine. McCarthy starts first, but McCord is just a way better player. So McCord, if McCord will transfer out of there and lead, USC or some school, I don't know.
If he transfers, he's going to come back and beat Ohio State in the playoffs. I'm saying it right now.
I hope
it's going
so.
to happen. I do.
LSU would be a good spot for Kyle McCord.
Florida, so many schools.
Raheem Jarrett had a good game against Penn State. That's where he got a lot of his yardage. He scored on the exact same play. Austin, are we overrating Raheem Jarrett's 2020 season?
No, because I don't think that his rating is like his current status is based on like he flashed in that game. I don't think anybody's saying that his 2020 season was amazing. I think they're just saying he looked so good in that game. That's the glimpse. And he missed some time with like an injury. And I think he had to sit out for contact tracing or something once at one point. Like he missed some time. But I think we're not saying that his season was good. He just flashed enough in that game to make me feel really good about projecting him forward. And that can burn you. Like, I mean, we talk about Keaton Slovis was great as a freshman, but we projected and now he sucks. So,
Austin, is Ohio State coming out of the Big Ten East? Or, I mean, if it's not Ohio State, I got to imagine it's either Indiana or Maryland. Could it be one of those two teams?
No, there's virtually zero shot. Actually, I think Indiana is going to be worse than you think they are this year.
I agree.
Not garbage. I just think I think last year was like the year, and when Penix got hurt and stuff, it just kind of fell off the rails. It's hard to put together 2 seasons like that with a moderately limited roster. Like, they don't have depth. I just don't think they can push.
Agreed. 100%.
All right. Let's bring Chris Moxley in here. There was a lot of stuff going on today. Chris Moxley, how did we do tonight?
Some of y'all did excellent. Some of y'all did so-so. So let me give a shout out to Marr Chase at the start and say he had a 72nd percentile success rate against man and 76th percentile success rate against press. He's a good separator. That ignore anything they're saying.
Success and separation are 2 different things, just for the record. So we need a Reale for the Reale. Where's our second Reale? Bring him in.
Do not cut off Mr. Reale. Let him talk. This is his segment. Mute yourself.
So the two of y'all were good, really good tonight. Actually, I have a couple of corrections for Matt. I'm going to be honest with you. You kind of dropped the ball a little bit. First was you said Michael Penix didn't score last year against Penn State. Not only did he have a 9-yard pass to Walt Phillier, he also had a rushing touchdown. So he had
I'm talking about the rushing touchdown. It wasn't a rushing touchdown. Sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
Let him talk.
It's a rushing touchdown. I also searched for a long time. I actually spent like 30 minutes of the show trying to find anything about the push off that Jahan Dotson had, not registered anywhere. So I'm not really sure what that was about. And for a separate section of Ohio State corrections, you said Jeremy Rucker is not Kyle Pitts. I don't think anyone's confusing them for a big reason and then a whole bunch of little reasons. G. Scott is apparently the next Jeremy Rucker. Just going to throw that out there. I'm not really sure what to do with that one. You said Travion Henderson was 195. He's up to 215 now. Come on, stay in the game, Matt. And Quinn Joe Dirt Ewers, the mullet's not beautiful, first of all. And second, you said he's 206. Actually, a report from 11 days ago said he's 202. And I'll give one final shout out to Felix for bringing up Jaden Reed and not saying Kalamazoo stand up.
I did say Kalamazoo stand up.
I did say brought him up.
He did.
I did say it. The reality does need a reality. Hey, that is going to be our show for tonight. Check out all of the content around the Campus to Canton family, including all of the conference previews that we're doing. We've got Kevin Coleman has joined CampusToCanton.com. He's got an article up. So make sure you go to the website. And, of course, check out the Campus to Canton podcast channel. But our apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. We ran out of time, but we're going to get him rescheduled soon. For Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. I absolutely said Kalamazoo stand up.
So you said Kalamazoo stand up.
Austin said, which school did he go to? I said Western Michigan University, Kalamazoo stand up.
Oh, I only heard the Kalamazoo stand. I only heard the Western Michigan part.
Yeah,
but
he said it after.
Man, this was not a good night for me.
That's all right.
Although I'm really concerned that Matt got Quinn's weight off by
4 pounds. That's the kind of stuff that I want in that segment. It's like, oh, you're off by 4 pounds. That's funny. That's funny.
Joe Dierte. So wait, Ricky White played with Harrison Bailey too in high school?
Yeah, they played at Marietta together with
Jesus, with Gilbert and Kamani Vidal.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Wait, Vidal was the running back there? I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure Kamani Vidal was their running back. Yeah.
Oh, Vidal's awesome. I love drafting.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Holy shit, he played there too. That's a legitimate like full D1 offense, like starting freshman D1 offense.
Harrison Bailey got so much benefit from playing with legit like.
Who's gonna start for Tennessee?
Bailey, I think.
Everything you read. No, I don't think it's going to be Hooker. Everybody thinks it's going to be Milton. And I'm like, he's the last one there. How is
he's also the only one that coaching staff probably chose.
They chose Hooker.
Oh, that's a good point.
No.
Yeah, they chose Hooker.
No, he was right before, right?
He committed before with the previous coach, and then the whole McDonald's bag thing came out. Yeah. Because I was like, I like Hooker. Because I think we talked on a C2C pod at the time, and I was like, I like Hooker, but I don't know if this coaching staff's going to make it through the offseason. And sure enough, like a week later, I was like, great.
I want to like Joe Milton. And I do think Joe Milton is somebody who should be like when you're in the 40th round of a startup, just like go ahead and pick him, especially if you've got Harrison Bailey, because that offense theoretically should put up points. And they both of them, I mean, Milton has 3 years left. Bailey has 3. They're in the same class. I didn't realize it. Yeah, they're in the same class.
Wait, are they?
They're not. They weren't as recruits, but everyone gets that free. Bailey has 4 years left if he wants them.
Yeah. No, Milton's
4 years
ahead
left.
of Bailey, right?
Oh, yeah. So Milton's a redshirt freshman?
Yes.
It's
second year is what I'm pretty confident in.
I'll look and see what he's listed at, but like all the schools are listing these guys differently too, which is like the tough part. Like some of them, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like technically, Rakeem Jarrett's a freshman. Like technically,
right?
But he's listed as a sophomore on their site. I was actually surprised to see that. Joe Milton is listed as a redshirt junior.
Okay.
Was he a 2018 or 2019 recruit?
I bet he's 2018. See, 2018.
Man, he's been around for a while. I guess that's true. I feel like I remember hearing about him earlier than that. Yeah.
Wearing the Rutgers shirt tonight, Chris. I like it.
We're talking Big Ten East. Listen, all my teams are bad. I've just accepted it, and I just rock their logos.
I've grown to like my my undroppables C2C team. I didn't like it at first because
I love my undroppable C2C.
Yeah, I mean you traded. That was actually really smart. It was just to be that aggressive early on in that type of format, because it's so hard to get NFL guys when it's a 16 team C2C league.
I think there are two ways to play that, and I think Chris did the one way, and I tried to do the other way, and we'll see if my way works as well as Chris's looks like it did. I'm literally just playing for 2022. Like if you look at my quarterbacks, I grabbed like a few guys that like I know are going to start this year, but then I have like Evan Prater, Jackson Dart, like some of them. Like I literally just have a squad that like I know a bunch of these guys aren't going to play at all this year, and I'm okay with it. I think those were the two ways that you kind of had to navigate those first like 12 rounds. So
yeah, I think so for me, I think the decision was if you can make 8 to 9 picks in the first 6 rounds of a league that deep, then you come out ahead, I think. Because, I mean, by the time you get to the 8th round, I mean, it's just a crapshoot anyway. What do you care if you give up an 8th, 9th, 10th round pick? Because, like, I don't think I picked for, like, 4 rounds. And it just didn't matter to me.
Mox, are you going to the expo?
I'm going to the expo. I'll be there Saturday, probably between 3 and 4.
You gonna participate in all the video and stuff?
I'm planning on it.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought you were about to say I don't know.
So I'm driving actually.
Yeah. Me too.
So that it's gonna be
What?
It's gonna be interesting.
How long is your drive?
7 hours, but I didn't want
Mine's
to.
5.
The problem was flying was I was gonna have to have a layover regardless, and it was basically gonna be like 5.5 hours. Plus the flight doesn't actually like you have to take an Uber from the airport, and I was just like, you know, it's just be easier to drive. I don't care. I can live with that. So
I still haven't figured out when I'm gonna get there. It would be a lot easier if I knew like I could get what kind of Airbnb can you only get in at 4:00 in the afternoon?
Most of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the only Airbnbs that I've stayed at.
What kind of Airbnbs are you staying in, Felix?
Yeah.
I don't know. The last time I stayed in an Airbnb was probably 2 years ago. So I don't remember. I'm thinking of hotels. I mean, a hotel, you get there when you get there and you go in your room.
Yeah. I'm staying like 10 minutes, if that, from the house that y'all have.
We're barely going to be there.
Yeah.
I was thinking like we would do like a party or something like that because I would want to cook, but we're not. I mean, we gotta film and then somebody. I'll probably end up having to cut that video, and then we're gonna go to the party in the evening. So.
Got that song stuck in your head, huh, Felix?
I do.
I've
been running to it.
I see Jay here. Jay said, "Sorry, Austin. Syracuse will win against Rutgers. They might. Those are the only 4 games that Rutgers has a chance of winning, in my opinion." So,
Justin Fields Kevin asked, Justin Fields or Joe Burrow for Dynasty. I think that you have to say Fields, but yeah,
he
doesn't have a torn knee.
That's the answer.
Oh,
Joe Burrow is not as good as everybody gives him credit for last season. You really go and look at his statistics; they weren't as great as people think they were. And Cincinnati's not going to be a good team.
I think I'd rather have Burrow. I mean, I like both guys. I have a lot of both.
I have a lot of Justin Fields because he fell after Trey Lance in most drafts this year, and that was just inexcusable.
Correct. Dude, I have so much Trey Lance. I think I've drafted Trey Lance in every draft but one this offseason. I love Trey Lance.
Jesus.
He's so good.
You have him in the Devy Debate League?
Yeah, I took him in the first round. I took him out there 11th overall.
Man, what a reach.
And then I took Kyle Pitts. So I had 2 big reaches.
My team's like, after I get out of startups, like I'm always like, my team isn't very good. And then I get down to Kyle Pitts. If I've taken him, I'm like, okay, like that's where the value went. It went into Kyle Pitts. Like I'm always like, what the fuck did I spend my first 3 picks on?
Yeah, I kind of like my team. I got Lance, Matt Ryan, and I got Javonte Mixon and Mike Evans going in like the 7th round. I was like, I don't even really like Mike Evans all that much, but that seems like a value.
I didn't really have a strategy in that league, to be honest. And then when McKay offered me that trade to trade out of those picks, I said, sure, fuck it. So I gained a supplemental 1st for next year and a supplemental 3rd, I think. So
yes, I saw that. What did I add? I added a 3rd, and 2 seconds trading down in that league. So I have a couple early picks for the draft.
The problem with a lot of my C2C rosters, and not to like my campus rosters, and not to toot my own horn necessarily, because I know just like some people don't play the college side to win it,
which is stupid. But yeah,
like I do. So like I'll never really have an early pick in most of my drafts.
No, me neither.
Because like I care about winning it. So that
who,
does like
I don't understand. Like this is kind of tangential, but like I don't understand the concept of not playing to win. Like you can draft in the 20th round, like legit starters. I just don't understand why you wouldn't play to win. Like because it's not like there's no pot for that. Like I just don't understand the conceptually.
Again, I think
don't play it.
People just underestimate people overestimate anyone's ability. Anybody, even the best NFL GM ever, overestimate our ability to correctly project guys from college to the NFL. 100%. I get a lot of DMs every day from people that are like, I'm in the 35th round of a startup. Who's the best Devy guy probably left? No. My answer is usually none. There are none left. Like, if you're really trying to take a shot in the dark, like, here's a name or two, but you're going to have to wait for 2 years to find out. And by then, because that's the thing, like Deshaun Morrell is a popular pick this year. I like Morrell, but if he's not going to touch the field for 2 years, does he survive 2 years worth of end of season roster cuts for me? Yeah. Like, I don't know. There are a lot of guys like that like I don't take until maybe it's like very late, just because.
Who was I talking about this? I think I was talking with Colin actually about this. And what I was saying was like, someone had offered me Blake Corum for Preston Hutchinson. And I easily turned it down. I was like, that isn't even close for me. Like, what am I supposed to do with that trade? Like, I think Preston Hutchinson is probably top 12 quarterback this year. And I don't know what Corum's upside is. Like, it's when you make those decisions that I think you're either on one side very heavily or the other. Like, I don't think there's anyone in the middle in that sort of decision.
Yeah, no, for sure. I don't know.
I don't like though. But so.
I don't know how I feel about him. Felix, I think you have your mic turned off or something.
About Blake Corum?
Yeah. Yeah, do you like Blake Corum?
I mean, I like any running back who can catch the ball, and he was kind of it's supposed to be an all-purpose back. But it's just Michigan, man. It's just Michigan. They might as well be Nebraska.